Hi everyone, I'm Ruth Wasserman Lande. Today is October 15th, 2024. This is the live daily briefing of the Israeli Citizen Spokesperson's Office. We're live on Instagram, X, YouTube, and LinkedIn, and available afterwards wherever you get your podcasts. Please start submitting questions in the chat, and as always, like and subscribe to help us reach a wider audience. Today, a policeman was murdered and 4 others injured when a terrorist came up to a major highway and opened fire. This is the 4th deadly terror attack in the last 2 weeks, as Israel continues to be fired upon by Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, Iran, and other proxies. Remember, Israel is fighting for the defense of its citizens on 7 fronts. That's why Israel's soldiers are in Lebanon. Israel's troops are degrading Hezbollah's ability to murder Israelis, taking out Hezbollah's commanders, taking out Hezbollah launchers, sealing Hezbollah tunnels. It's working. How do we know? Hezbollah and Iran are signaling. Yet again, they want a ceasefire. Israel is receiving indirect requests from Hezbollah and Iran for a ceasefire, a source told the Jerusalem Post. We've spoken about similar reports in the past. Iran and its proxy army in Lebanon wants Israel to stop hammering away at them, but not because they want peace. Hezbollah and the Islamic Republic of Iran want a chance to rebuild, rearm, and again be ready to rocket Israel's people while invading its northern towns. That is why Israel is responding with a no, thank you. Israel doesn't want that kind of ceasefire. In fact, it needs a new reality where Hezbollah cannot fire 13,000 Iranian rockets, missiles, and drones as they have been doing for a whole year since October 8th, 2023. In fact, Israel needs a new reality in which 60,000 people who were displaced from their homes can safely return. It's not just Hezbollah and the Islamic Republic of Iran talking about a ceasefire. The UN Security Council emphasized the need for a diplomatic endeavor that would bring a durable end to the conflict and allow civilians on both sides of the Israeli-Lebanese border to safely return to their homes. The Council statement also called for the full implementation of United Nations Security Council Resolution 1701. I'm just reminding everyone, 1701 has not been implemented for the last 18 years. Instead, Hezbollah continued to fortify southern Lebanon right under UNIFIL's noses and continued to rain hellfire on Israeli civilians. 1701 and UNIFIL have failed. The UN Security Council is responsible for that particular abject failure. Calling for more of the same will simply lead to more Hezbollah wars and to the destabilization of Lebanon itself, which Hezbollah is supposedly protecting. Indeed, whatever comes next must address the shortfalls of 1701 and UNIFIL and create a reality where Hezbollah is not armed and not on Israel's border. As we mentioned yesterday, UNIFIL, the UN peacekeepers in southern Lebanon, say they are at risk. Israel continues to tell UNIFIL, leave, get out of harm's way. In fact, Israel has officially stated last night again that Hezbollah uses UNIFIL facilities and positions as cover while it attacks Israeli cities and communities. These attacks have claimed the lives of many Israelis, including yesterday. UNIFIL troops that refuse to leave the area are endangering themselves and enabling Hezbollah to use them for cover. In fact, UNIFIL failed to stop Hezbollah until now. Now, it is kindly requested to get out of the way so that Israel can do what they did not. Let's take some questions from our audience watching live on social media.
Lila Russell asks, what's holding the Lebanese army up from standing against Hezbollah?
Lila, that's a brilliant question. In fact, this is an amazing opportunity for Lebanon and the Lebanese people in all of the complexity and the different groups within Lebanon to regain their independence, to regain their sovereignty, for the Lebanese army to take control. Israel doesn't want Lebanon. It doesn't want to occupy Lebanon. It just wants peace and not having a terrorist organization shoot at our civilians. And therefore, this is an excellent opportunity for the Lebanese army and the Lebanese people in general to have capacity building in their own government and to take control. At the moment, they're still not doing it, and they're probably still afraid of the resurrection of the Hezbollah, which has taken Lebanon hostage.
David Chaplin on X asks, could you give a quick explanation of the Israeli borders, mainly how the international boundary, like with Egypt, Jordan, Syria, differs from the blue line that defines sovereign Lebanon and sovereign Israel? Thanks.
So it's very simple. The blue line was actually a kind of a symbolic borderline, a boundary, actually to lineate where the Hezbollah must move to in order to be able to have some kind of a buffer zone, not enabling a terrorist organization to be, one, close to the Israeli-Lebanese border, and two, to, with its arms, shoot at Israeli civilians. Israeli-Egyptian border, there's no a specific line that is after a buffer zone. There is the Israeli-Egyptian border, likewise with Jordan. In fact, every single border that Israel has with an Arab country, for example, with the West Bank, with, in other words, Judea and Samaria, with Gaza, with Egypt, there is no buffer zone, which is a problem. No other country in the world would allow a different country to come right up to its own border without any buffer zone if there is a fear of attack or some kind of instability, like with Gaza, like with Jordan, like with the West Bank. And this is something that is different, and that's what UNIFIL was supposed to maintain and bring about, but it failed.
Will the IDF just go back around UNIFIL if they won't move back?
The IDF warned again and again that the UNIFIL, the UN so-called peacekeeping forces, are in harm's way. If an antagonistic terrorist organization is shooting at Israeli civilians, it is the responsibility of the government and the army inside Israel, the IDF, to make away with the shooting, with that threat upon Israeli civilians. What the UN peacekeeping forces are doing is, in fact, inhibiting the Israeli defense forces from defending its own civilians. They're not doing anything else. They are not protecting Lebanese civilians by doing this. They are simply inhibiting on purpose, after they had failed to do the same, the ability of the IDF to protect and defend Israel's civilians, which is something that they are not only required to do, but it is their responsibility to do, and any sovereign government would be expected to do the same thing.
NY Cleese asks, why should Israel heed pressure to uphold international law when fighting against terrorist organizations which have no regard for law at all?
Israel is a democracy. It has a lot of respect for international law. It doesn't matter how many people throughout the world can laugh at that, can belittle that, can take aim at Israel's respect of international law, but urban warfare experts, non-Jewish, not Israeli, not paid by any Jewish or Israeli entity, are saying again and again from different organizations all throughout the world that Israel is working according to international law. And one of the things to actually prove that is the fact that different bodies throughout the world, law enforcing bodies like the ICJ and so on, have not come up with convincing evidence that Israel is doing something against international law. Does Israel want to be like designated terrorist organizations? Of course not. It's not our standard. It's not the way we do things. We are humanitarian. We have ethics, and we will continue to have that, as Jewish people had that for thousands of years.
Thank you, Ruth. For our last question, Adam D. Zucker asks, while the situation in Lebanon is critical, can you give an update on attempts to bring the hostages home?
Right now, the head of the Mossad is visiting Cairo and holding yet again talks of a possible kind of a solution and a deal regarding the hostages. I cannot say much more about this at the moment. And the less he said, actually, the better for the hostages. I do want to say, however, that the hostages, unfortunately, they are the security belt right now for Sinwar. And Sinwar, in a complete disregard for international law, is keeping illegally civilians, Israeli civilians, against every kind of ethic around him as a security belt. He has no hope for resurrection without them. And this is what is making the deal so very difficult. But yes, there are continued talks, and there is a continued responsibility on the part of the Israeli government to do everything that it can to bring our people back home. Thank you so much for being with us today. Tomorrow is our festival. I want to wish everybody who's having the festivities at home with the families a Chag Sameach, and we'll see each other again on Sunday. Thank you.